Have you ever opened your fridge, pulled out a plate of yesterday's food, and thought to yourself, it's just leftovers, it should be fine? You pop it in the microwave, heat it up, and serve it, maybe for yourself, maybe for your elderly loved one, without giving it a second thought. But let me ask you this. What if that simple act of reheating, something so ordinary and harmless looking, was slowly putting your health, or your parents' health, at risk? What if some of the most common foods we reheat every single week are quietly damaging the body and even increasing the risk of something as serious as pancreatic cancer? Think about it. For many seniors, reheating food isn't just a habit, it's a way of life. Leftovers save time, save money, and reduce waste. But here's the truth nobody talks about. Not every food is safe to reheat. In fact, there are 4 everyday foods that can change chemically when reheated, producing toxins or stressing your organs in ways you might never notice until it's too late. Now, I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you this because knowledge is protection. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which 4 foods you should never carelessly reheat, the science of why they can turn harmful, and the safer choices you can make instead. Trust me, you'll want to hear the last one on this list because I guarantee it's something you've reheated before, probably more than once. So here's what I want you to do right now. If you care about your health and the health of your loved ones, type "I care" in the comments below. It may sound simple, but it's your way of saying, I choose awareness over ignorance. And while you're here, don't forget to subscribe to Elderly Advice for Life, because every week we share life-saving insights that could mean the difference between a small mistake and a big regret. Let's start with the first food on our list, potatoes. Now, I know what you're thinking. Potatoes? Really? They're one of the most common comfort foods. Mashed potatoes, roasted potatoes, fried potatoes, we all love them. And for many families, especially elderly ones who don't cook as often, reheating leftover potatoes is an easy way to save time and still have a warm meal on the table. But here's where it gets concerning. Imagine this. You prepare a nice bowl of mashed potatoes for your elderly parent, and the next day you reheat it in the microwave without a second thought. It looks harmless, it smells fine, and honestly it tastes the same. But what's hiding in there might surprise you. You see, potatoes are starchy, and when starch is left to sit out for too long at room temperature, especially overnight, it creates the perfect environment for dangerous bacteria like Clostridium botulinum to grow. This isn't just regular food poisoning bacteria. This one can release toxins that are harmful to the body, attacking the digestive system and putting an extra load on the pancreas, a vital organ that already becomes weaker with age. Here's the part most people get wrong. We assume that if we put leftovers in the fridge, they're automatically safe. But with starchy foods like potatoes, the real danger is not just about refrigeration. It's about how they're cooled down before they even reach the fridge and how often they're reheated. If you leave a pot of potatoes sitting out on the counter for hours before storing it, harmful bacteria can form, and no amount of reheating will completely destroy those toxins. And let's be honest, this is a mistake many of us make without realizing it. You might serve dinner, leave the pot on the table for the evening, and only pack it away when you're cleaning up before bed. It feels harmless, but for elderly people with weaker immune systems, it can be much more dangerous than we imagine. So what can you do? The good news is there are simple steps to keep potatoes safe. If you cook potatoes and know there will be leftovers, cool them quickly. Place them in shallow containers, put them in the fridge as soon as possible, and when you do reheat them, do it thoroughly, and only once. Never let them sit at room temperature for hours, and never reheat the same batch more than once. It may feel like a small thing, but for your loved one's health, it makes all the difference. Because the truth is, food that looks safe can sometimes carry hidden dangers. And potatoes are just the beginning. There's another food on this list that people think of as one of the healthiest choices you can make. But when reheated, it can become even riskier than potatoes. And that food is spinach and leafy greens. Now let's move on to the second food on our list, spinach and leafy greens. Spinach is one of those foods everyone calls a superfood. And rightly so. It's packed with iron, vitamins, and antioxidants. Many of us encourage our elderly loved ones to eat more greens, believing it's always the healthiest choice on the plate. But here's a surprising truth. When reheated, spinach and leafy greens can quietly transform from a nutrient powerhouse into a silent threat. Picture this. You prepare a fresh spinach stir-fry or a pot of vegetable soup loaded with leafy greens. Your parent or grandparent eats some and you save the rest for later. The next day you reheat it thinking you're doing something good for their health. After all, greens are always good, right? But what if that very reheating is changing what's inside the food in a dangerous way? Here's why this matters. Leafy greens like spinach naturally contain nitrates, which are not harmful by themselves. In fact, they can even support healthy blood flow. But when these nitrates are exposed to heat over and over, they can convert into something called nitrosamines. And nitrosamines are not your friend. They're chemical compounds that have been linked to digestive cancers, including pancreatic cancer. So while spinach looks like it's brimming with health, reheating it can change the story entirely. And here's where families often go wrong. Many believe that as long as their loved ones are eating greens in any form, they're doing something right. But not all methods of preparation are safe. Just because food is labeled healthy, doesn't mean it stays healthy when it's cooked, cooled, and reheated again. This is a blind spot in many kitchens. A blind spot that can cost our elderly loved ones dearly. So what can you do instead? The safest choice is to serve leafy greens fresh, steamed lightly, or cooked just once and eaten right away. If there are leftovers, store them properly but avoid reheating them. Instead, try adding the cold cooked greens into a salad the next day, or mixing them into a smoothie. That way, you're not destroying their nutrients or turning them into something harmful. It may sound like a small adjustment, but for an elderly person whose body is more vulnerable, it could mean the difference between protecting their health and unknowingly adding to their risks. And here's the important takeaway. Even foods we trust, like greens, can have hidden dangers when handled the wrong way. And if that's true for vegetables, what about protein-rich foods like chicken or beef, the very meals we often reheat the most? That brings us to the third food on this list, and it's one that might surprise you even more. Now let's talk about the third food on this list, chicken and meat. Picture this for a moment. It's Sunday afternoon. You've just finished cooking a big family meal, juicy chicken, maybe a pot of beef stew, or even some grilled meat. Everyone eats, enjoys, and afterward there's still plenty left over. So, naturally, you store it in the fridge, planning to warm it up the next day. Feels like a smart, practical thing to do. But here's the hidden problem. Reheating meat isn't always as simple or as safe as it seems. You see, chicken, beef, and other meats are rich in protein. And protein behaves differently when it's exposed to heat again and again. The structure of the protein molecules actually changes. What does that mean for your body? It means that reheated meat becomes harder to digest, creating extra work for your digestive system and especially for your pancreas, the very organ that helps your body break down fats and proteins. For an elderly person whose digestive system may already be weaker, this extra burden can quietly chip away at their health. And here's something most people don't realize. We often think food is only dangerous when it smells bad, looks spoiled, or has visible mold. But meat can look fresh, smell fine, and still carry harmful byproducts once it's been reheated. These chemical changes aren't things you can see with your eyes or taste with your tongue, but they happen on a microscopic, cellular level. That's what makes it so tricky and so risky. Now let's talk about a mistake many families make. Out of habit, we reheat a whole batch of chicken or stew all at once, even if we're only going to eat a little portion. We do it for convenience, but then we end up reheating that same food again the next day. And here's the truth, every time you reheat meat, the risk increases. The protein structure becomes more unstable, and the strain on your pancreas grows heavier. So what's the safer way? The key is portion control. Instead of reheating the entire pot of stew or a whole roast chicken, slice it into smaller portions when you first store it. That way you only reheat what you actually need. And when you do reheat, use lower, gentler heat, or better yet, repurpose it. Add yesterday's chicken into a fresh soup, or shred leftover beef into a salad. That way you avoid hitting the meat with intense heat for a second or third time. It might sound like a small change, but for seniors, whose bodies can't handle the same stress they once could, it could mean protecting them from long-term damage. So yes, even meat, something so common on our plates, can become a hidden risk when reheated without care. But if you think that's concerning, wait until you hear about the last food on this list. Because almost every household reheats it, and yet it carries one of the biggest hidden dangers of them all. And that food is rice. And now we've come to the fourth food, and this one may surprise you the most. Rice. Rice is a staple for millions of families around the world. It's affordable, it's filling, and it goes with almost every meal. In many elderly households, Rice is cooked in large batches so it can be eaten over several days. And what do we usually do when there are leftovers? We reheat it, sometimes more than once. Feels like the most normal, harmless thing in the world. But here's the part nobody tells you. Reheated rice has been linked not only to food poisoning but also to long-term risks that could quietly wear down the pancreas. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you've made a big pot of rice for dinner. Some is eaten, and the rest sits on the kitchen counter while everyone finishes their evening. Hours later it finally gets packed into the fridge. The next day you scoop some out, reheat it quickly and serve it. On the surface nothing seems wrong, it looks the same, tastes the same, smells the same. But what you can't see is what's happening on the inside. Here's the science. Rice can contain spores of a bacteria called Bacillus cereus. These spores are tough. They survive cooking, they survive boiling, and when rice is left to cool slowly, they wake up and multiply. The next time you reheat that rice, the bacteria release toxins. And here's the catch. Those toxins are heat resistant. Which means no matter how hot you reheat your rice, the damage may already be done. Once those toxins are there, they can cause digestive problems in the short term and put stress on the pancreas in the long term. For seniors whose bodies are already more sensitive, this extra stress can make a dangerous difference. And here's a very common misconception. People think that as long as rice is steaming hot, it must be safe. But the truth is, the real danger isn't destroyed by heat. You can boil it, microwave it, fry it doesn't matter. If the toxins are present, reheating won't remove them. So what can you do to keep rice safe? The key is speed and care. If you cook rice and know you'll have leftovers, cool it quickly, within an hour after cooking, by spreading it out in a shallow container. Store it in the fridge right away. And when you reheat it, only do so once. If there's still rice left after that, it's better to let it go than to take the risk. For elderly loved ones, this one simple habit, cooling rice quickly and avoiding multiple reheats, can prevent serious harm. It may feel like a small precaution, but small actions often make the biggest difference. So now you know the 4 foods, potatoes, leafy greens, meat and rice, that can turn dangerous in the blink of an eye. But the question is, what do we do with this knowledge? And that's where things get emotional. It's painful, isn't it, to think that something as simple, as ordinary, as reheating a meal could quietly harm the very people we're trying so hard to protect? For many of us, food is love. Cooking for our parents, sharing meals with our grandparents, or even serving leftovers is an act of care, of comfort. So the thought that those meals, meant to bring strength and joy, could instead bring harm, it weighs heavy on the heart. But listen closely, this isn't about fear. It's about empowerment. You see, fear paralyzes but knowledge sets you free. By learning about these risks, you've already taken the first step toward protecting your loved ones from dangers that most people never even think about. This is not the end of enjoying food together. It's the beginning of doing it more safely, more mindfully, and with even more love. Here's what I want you to remember: every small choice matters. The next time you reach for leftovers, pause for just a moment. Ask yourself, is there a safer way to prepare this? Should I cool it faster? Should I reheat only what's needed? Should I skip reheating this food altogether? That tiny pause, that small decision could make all the difference. And here's the beautiful part. Making these choices doesn't take away from family meals. It doesn't remove the love, the tradition, or the comfort. In fact, it adds to it. Because now, when you serve a plate of food to your parent or your grandparent, you'll know deep down that you're not only filling their stomach, you're protecting their health, their dignity, and their precious years of life. So don't be discouraged. Be encouraged. Because with awareness, with love, and with just a few small changes in how we handle food, we can make mealtimes safe again. We can bring back the joy of eating without the hidden dangers. And most importantly, we can give our elderly loved ones the gift they deserve: peace of mind, safety, and meals that truly nourish both body and soul. To quickly recap, let's bring everything together. The 4 foods you should always be cautious about reheating are potatoes, spinach and leafy greens, chicken and meat, and rice. They may look harmless, they may even taste the same when reheated, but the hidden risks are real, especially for elderly loved ones whose bodies are more sensitive. Now, I want to ask you, have you ever noticed your parent, grandparent, or even yourself reacting badly after eating reheated meals? Maybe a sudden stomach upset, unusual fatigue, or just that feeling that something wasn't quite right. Which of these foods do you think is the riskiest for your household? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. I would love to hear from you, and your experience might help another family too. And if you found this video helpful or eye-opening, I invite you to take one small step further. Subscribe to Elderly Advice for Life. This is where we share practical tips, real science, and caring advice that could protect your health and the health of your family. And if you tap the like button, it helps this message reach more people who may not even realize that something as simple as a reheated meal could be affecting their loved ones. Most importantly, thank you for being here, for caring, and for taking the time to learn something new today. Remember this, staying safe doesn't require fear, it just requires awareness. With a little knowledge, you can protect, you can empower, and you can make everyday meals not only nourishing but truly safe. Stay safe, stay informed, and above all, stay hopeful. Because every small choice you make today builds a safer tomorrow for the people you love. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.